game day lifting. You know, this is something that I had never done in the past with any of my athletes. But part of the evolution of a coach is being willing to change, being willing to adapt, and to try to implement new ideas, because at the end of the day, the goal is just to make your athletes better. And so we have to keep learning in order to do that. And now sometimes the things that we're going to try may not be supported by research yet. And that's okay, as long as it's built on solid principles and you understand the mechanisms behind what's going on. I think it's worth trying. So I will say this. Number one, if you are a weak or undertrained athlete that doesn't have a lot of experience, you aren't going to benefit from something like this, because you're not really going to see that potentiation effect. But we've been using post-activation potentiation in the weight room with athletes for years. That's where you might pair like a trap bar deadlift, so a heavier compound lift, with a box jump or a hurdle hop, something more dynamic. Usually what you're going to see is that there's a potentiation effect. So there's going to be some motor neuron excitability. They're going to be able to jump higher. They're going to be able to jump farther. Maybe they're going to be able to sprint a little bit faster. But I will say this. Number one, you do have to be very careful with the volume. You don't want to overdo it. So number two, you have to give them a lot of rest in between the reps. You have to really understand the athlete that you're working with. I've been using with athletes recently and they love it. It all started because I had an athlete who had to train before some of his practices. And every time we had a hard, heavy lift before, he was like, this is the best I've ever played. So I was like,